If you get both these cards, you're going to hit 125K in points, which means for the rest of that calendar year that you get it, and the entire next year, you get two people flying for the price of one. And then so what happens is hopefully that relationship's still lasting. And after the 2 years, you flip it. So like if you got it for your wife, let's say you did it in January 2026, you now have 2026 and 2027 where she's your companion. End of 2027 comes around, she adds you, and then you do 28 and 29 as the companion. That's 4 years of one person flying free.
If I'm looking to go away, I'm going to do the family of four. How would I just even start? Like, okay, do I decide on the destination? Do I decide on this is the airline we should probably use and the type of points I should accumulate? Or what should my base strategy be? Like,
I'll give you one tactical thing to leave people with, and then one kind of philosophical thing. So the tactical thing, I'm actually gonna give you two. Okay, so one is getting some apps that will help make this easy. So one of the great apps out there is Overwater. Another alternative would be,
tell me straight up, like what card should I get if I want to maximize, like the example you just said, Miami, and I've got a bunch of ad spend. What kind of card would I use?
Yeah.
Hey everybody, it's Rob Cosman from Selling from the Beach, and today I have Eli the Travel Guy. We're going to talk all things travel. So if you're like me, you've got credit cards, I have Canadian cards, I have US cards. I'm terrible. I'm absolute garbage with managing the points. And I know Eli's probably going to shame me on a bunch of things that I do and what I shouldn't be doing. But I really wanted to get him on today because I thought this was a good thing. You know, a lot of us have so many points. We really aren't optimizing. I know some of you nerds are all about it and you've done all the math and the calculations. I'm not that guy. I'm terrible at it. But I know there's others like me, so I wanted to get Eli on today and just chat a bit about some of the strategies, what he does for clients, what free advice he can give us, like common mistakes, and what the potential is. You know, I see these scam ads out there like, oh, fly free to around the world and all this. It's like, okay, let's figure out what is really achievable realistically with your spends. Eli, welcome to the show. If you could just give everybody a little bit of intro, kind of who you are. I mean, where you're calling me from even right now.
Yeah, right. Yeah, Rob, thanks for having me on, man. So bonsoir, I'm in Paris right now. I've been traveling Europe and really around the world for the last, since March. So I was in Austin the last 3 years. I'm from the DC area originally, but in Austin the last 3 years. My fiance and I looked at each other in the fall and we just decided, you know what? Austin's pretty hot in the summer. Where do we want to go instead? And we were like, we don't have kids yet. Let's just put everything in storage and go travel. So we made that decision in the fall of last year. And starting March, we went to Japan, Hawaii. We spent about a month in Florida, then Germany, the Dolomites in Italy, Florence. I went to Dubai, to Egypt, to Lisbon, Barcelona, Mykonos, Venice, Sardinia, Italy. Now we're here. It's been crazy. But what's cool? Go ahead.
I don't understand how you can even remember all those places, but okay, amazing.
Yeah. Well, it helps though when it's your job too, I guess. But a lot of the stuff that I'm helping clients with is how I'm doing this. You know, like we're in a Marriott hotel right now. We got a free upgrade to a suite. We got free breakfast, early check-in, late checkout. Hopefully the connection stays really good because of high-speed Wi-Fi for free. You know, all the things that come from getting business class flights on points to getting hotel upgrades to using points for these kinds of things. I do myself personally. This is how we've been living, and it's really cool because I get to just share that stuff with our clients and with people on social media, people like this that we're going to get into details with for on the podcast. But it's a really, really awesome system that I tapped into about 10 years ago for the first time. And I started a business in it about 5 years ago after spending about 5 to 6 years of just being a total nerd who got super passionate about this because of its applicability in my life and realized there's a lot of people that could really get a lot of help out of this. So that's how I started the business. And that's a little bit of the background. The company's called Freedom Travel Systems. So we've helped over 1,000 business owners turn their points into their dream trips and get first class for less than economy, all off of maximizing one thing, which is the money that they're already spending in their business and in their household, just being really efficient with it and making it easy to implement this so that you can get the benefits without the tons of hours of complexity and changing. It can get kind of crazy. That's pretty much the high level for me.
That's awesome. That's exactly what I want to get into, what I want to talk about, what's achievable, what's realistic, what are the constraints. Before we get on the podcast, I did a little bit of research and I watched some of your other videos and some of your YouTube clips and that. And we've got a lot of the same philosophies, which is good. You actually called out and you mentioned the book 18 Summers. And I have that book and I've read it because I've got kids. And, I'm a big fan of 18 Summers. I'm a big fan with the book called Die with Zero. I don't know if you've read that one, but so we're on the same wavelength. And for anybody here who has kids or you don't have kids, read those books. Here's the high level. Memory dividends, experiences, travel when you can, travel when your body is able to do it. not necessarily planning when I'm 60, 75, because you never know what your mobility's issues are going to be like and, your ability to actually travel. Do it while you can. So
Mhm.
I know we're on the same. You've got a really cool. You also have one that I thought was neat. Was the annual honeymoon philosophy? Was it? What do you
Mhm.
what do you call it?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, first off, I mean, when I speak in live events, often give out the book Die with Zero because it's so on brand and on point with my overall life philosophy and what I really stand for in life and what the brand stands for. And so we'll get into something potentially that I call experiential wealth. This is kind of a phrase that I've been coining because it really gives people a concrete way to sink their teeth into what it means to live a life that's not just about pursuing financial wealth, but also about creating amazing connections and moments through the experiences we get when we travel. But yeah, the honeymoon a year concept. So this is something we came up with a while back because we had a client and her name's Erin. She came to us. She was an online coach and she was spending probably like 15 to 20K a month inside of her business. So not like a crazy amount of expenses, more than the average household, but not like compared to some businesses that are spending hundreds of thousands. She's like, hey, I don't know. I want to plan a honeymoon off my points. I don't have that many, maybe 300,000. I spend this much. What can I do? And we took a look and we planned. She was proactive. So I give her a lot of credit on that. Most people are very reactive with this and they wait. And that's what ends up causing them to kind of miss out on some of these opportunities is they're waiting too long. But she got way ahead of it. So we were like 11 months out for when she wanted to do this trip. We dialed in her cards. We got things cranked up. She ended up then taking a trip to the Maldives and Dubai. She flew Emirates business class. They had the in-flight bar. They stayed in an Overwater villa for 10 days in the Maldives. They had like the trip of their life. They got the upgrades, the whole thing. It ended up being like a $45,000 trip. She paid a couple $1,000s out of pocket and used, I think, around like 700,000 points for that, more or less right around there. But because she had so many points left over after what we had done to optimize her cards, she came back to us. She was like, I know I don't have a honeymoon next year, but like, can we do another one of those? And I was like, let's go. I was like, honeymoon a year. Like that's the new motto. That's how it started. It really came from the philosophy of like, especially if you have the opportunity right in front of you and like these relationships with the people you love, these moments of sharing extraordinary travel experiences with the people you care about. It's like the juice of life. It's like probably half the reason we got into business in the first place was to have more of that. So if you can do it, why not? And just creating this idea of a honeymoon a year kind of gives your brain the sense of like, oh yeah, our relationship's going to keep growing. We're going to keep having these awesome experiences together. And it's not going to be like a honeymoon was something we did once when we were, just got married. We get to do it annually. So that's the idea.
That's awesome. Okay, so let's take it back. How are we maximizing it? So most of our listeners, Amazon sellers, e-commerce sellers, we've got Canadians, we've got Americans. So I know the Canadians are going to complain that the rewards aren't as juicy as the American cards. And if you can finagle how to get the American cards, fantastic. Like I've got both, so I play both sides of the border. But can you just walk us through how should we be doing this? What are the common mistakes? What should we do?
Yeah, it's a great question. And the way I like to, it's the right question to ask first, too, because what happens for most people is think of this game like a big puzzle that we're putting together. Okay. Most people find one puzzle piece and they put it down and like, okay, I have this puzzle piece, but then like, what about this and then that? And there's no frame to build this picture around. So then everyone's just walking around with all these like random, like, I have this one card that has this benefit and this thing, but there's no like broader context to hold it in that makes it simple. So I'm a big fan of chunking things down to make it really simple to understand. So really there's three key steps that I like to break this into that the way you can think about it is like how am I doing 1 to 10 in each of these is really going to dictate how much you're getting and how much is possible for you. Okay. Now all of this stuff, I just want to bear in mind, all of this stuff is up to the individual in terms of what matters to them. Because I do a lot of international travel and I love using points for business and first class experiences, flying overseas, staying in really nice hotels. Like I like doing the luxury stuff because to me it's the pinnacle of what's possible. And like I don't really care to save on, a $200 domestic economy flight that much when I could be using points to save, $15,000 and get a shower in the sky on Emirates first class. It's just like total peak life experience, right? So that's important to me. But other people, that's not how they play the game. They care more about getting just like 3 times as many trips and flying in economy, and that's their preference. So it's always relevant to the individual. So that's some context. Now, the 3 buckets, I'll go high level. We can break these out. But the first bucket is to maximize the amount of points that you're getting and earning the most effective points. So maximizing your points. That's really going to come down to the right cards on the right expenses based on your goals. Okay, so this is why it's a little bit different for everybody. I'm happy to give blanket recommendations on certain cards, but like if you live in Miami and you travel to South America 5 times a year and you spend, 20 grand a month on ads, let's just say, versus someone who lives in Chicago and only does domestic travel and they spend 30 grand a month on inventory. Those are like 2 different plans. So there's not really one best card for that's going to be the same for both of them because the outcome might be different. But
Okay.
that's the first piece. And we can pause there. I'll kind of get in the other two, but that first piece is maximizing your points.
Okay. So just tell me straight up, like what card should I get if I want to maximize, like the example you just said, Miami, and I've got a bunch of ad spend. What kind of card would I use for that?
So there's the way that we want to think about it is we want to think about the right currency first, and then we look at which cards based on the currency I want earn the most in that currency. So the best currencies are ones that have this transferable capability because they unlock the ability to use these points on all airlines. And that's really the key is transferring the points, not going. This is, you ask, the biggest mistake that people make is wasting their points by going through either the Amex travel portal or cash them out for gift cards, statement credits, or on Amazon. Okay, that's the biggest mistake. Yeah. And are you okay, Rob, if I get really nerdy with you and do some math?
Absolutely.
Okay. So if you go through Amex Travel, they're going to they value the points at 1 cent. Okay. So you want a $5,000 flight to Europe, business class, that's 500,000 points if you go directly through Amex Travel. If you go to Amazon, they're going to give you 6/10 of 1 cent. Okay. So instead of 500,000 points being now worth 5,000, it's now worth 3,000. If you transfer those points, like based on our averages, when we do this for clients, we're getting around 4 to 5x that. So the same 500,000 points, instead of being worth $5,000 or one business class trip to Europe, is now worth 20 grand or 4 business class trips to Europe. That's because the airlines price things different than the banks. And when you transfer them, you're getting, I mean, you guys are very familiar with arbitrage, but you're basically getting points arbitrage, right? That's the game. That's the entire game here. And so if you increase the amount of points you get and then you get the arbitrage, that sets you up. But that brings me back to which points allow you to do that because only certain ones do. The main players in this are Chase, Amex, Capital One are the big three. Built is a new one. Citi is actually, they're revamping some things. And then Wells Fargo even has some. But if you had to pick two, Chase and Amex would be the best two. And then within that bank, there are cards that will maximize the most on ad spend. So the Amex Business Gold is the best one with Amex. And then the Chase Sapphire Reserve for Business, it's a brand new card as well, is the best one within Chase. So for people that are spending a lot on ads, those are two cards that are like no brainers because you're going to get 3 to 4x the amount of points that you would just compared to like the basic cards, like an Amex Platinum, for example, only earns you 1x. So that's a great starting point. If you are spending a lot on advertising, one of those two cards is definitely for you. The discrepancy to pick between is going to be based off of which partners matter to you based on what Chase has versus what Amex has.
Okay. And partners, you mean where they can transfer the points to?
Exactly. Yeah. Like, for example, like if you lived in DC, right? Dulles is a big hub and United flies out of Dulles. Amex doesn't transfer United, but Chase does. On the other side, it's not a great use of points to transfer points to Delta. It's actually a pretty bad use because their programs are very inflated. But like Amex points transfer to Delta and Chase doesn't. So there are certain partners that only some banks have. Chase transfers to Hyatt, Amex doesn't. Amex transfers to Hilton, Chase doesn't. So depending on like which programs you're loyal with, where you're flying, where you live, that's why I'm saying it always differentiates because like if you're flying United a lot, for example, and you need those Chase points to then convert to United, I would take, if I was in that situation, I would take a card that earns 3x on Chase over 4x with Amex because of that transferability and how relevant it is for me. That's why it's always a little bit custom.
Yeah, 'cause it's obviously no one size fits all. Okay, where do you live? What are you looking to do? What are you looking to go? And what type of spend are you getting? Is it ad spend?
Exactly.
What are other good spends that some of these cards offer? Like obviously we know the ads, but
Yeah.
is there anything else that is really juicy
Yeah.
that gives you extra points?
Yeah, I mean, most of the big categories are going to have something. So, like inventory, for example, you don't get a bonus on, but there are cards that earn 2x across the board. And so this would be like the Capital and Venture X for business. This is really good because most cards are earning one. So if you just did that, and let's say you spent 20 grand a month on inventory, right? That's an extra 20,000 points a month. That's 240,000 points a year. That's enough to go round trip to Europe business class twice, which could be 15 to 20 grand. So that's one card change just on inventory that unlocks an extra 15 to 20 grand for you with like, this is why I actually love the game so much. You think about typically in life, like strategies tend to take a certain amount of effort and time and input to get the result. This is like a 30-second credit card application just unlocked 20 grand for you. That requires really no additional effort. So that's why it's really cool. But that would be one for inventory. Depending again, if you do a lot of travel for business and you're not using points, Chase Sapphire Reserve for business is good. That's where the Amex Business Platinum also comes in. That's a really good lifestyle perks and benefits card for upgrade, for status, for lounges, for really nice hotels. And it's really good if you spend a lot on travel. It's not actually good for pretty much anything else. So as far as that card goes, like that's a big common misconception as well, is people will get the Amex Business Platinum thinking, well, this is like the nicest card. It's the most expensive one from Amex. It must be the best, right? Well, in actuality, if you're going out to dinner and you're using the Amex Business Platinum, you're earning a quarter of the amount that you should be earning with a card like the Amex Business Gold, and it's more expensive. So it's like, it's a kind of backwards actually. So that's a little bit of the kind of card optimization side and some of the different categories that you can really dial in.
So I used to have the gold and then I got an offered upgrade to the platinum and I took it. So I'm clearly an idiot. I should have kept that gold, shouldn't I?
Well, I wouldn't say you're an idiot, but yes, you should have kept the goal. You are in the same bucket that most business owners are in, which is you focused on the things that are highest leverage to you, which has been growing your business, and you didn't nerd out on things that probably felt like a distraction. So I'm actually an advocate for that. That's why I started what I started, is because like after I started doing this, I realized, okay, if I totaled it up, I probably spent thousands of hours learning this. And granted, I was a nerd and like I needed it because when I was starting, I had no money. And I had friends that were really, doing well and they wanted to take trips. And I was like, well, I can't hang out with my friends. So like I need to figure out a better way. That was part of it. There were a couple other reasons. And then it just became fun. Like the fact that I remember the first big point redemption I had, I was walking down the jet bridge onto the plane. And I remember, I was going to the lounges. I'm like 23 years old. So I would get in the lounges and just like drink as much wine and champagne as I could have. So I'm feeling a little buzzed. But look at the ticket. And at the time, I was making $24,000 a year. And I was like just trying to start a business. Things were not great financially. I looked down and I'm like, this ticket is worth $6,000 and I paid $6 for it. And I was looking up and I see all these people walking by in nice suits, business owners, lawyers, doctors, like wealthy people and stuff like that. And I was like, how the hell am I here? Like, this doesn't make any sense. So that's how I got obsessed with this. And then it became, again, just a total passion of mine. But for most business owners to get good at what you're good at, you have to focus on your core skill sets. So when I started what I started, I was like, I want to help people put their time where it matters most, but not leave all this on the table. So that was why I created this in the first place.
Okay. So now we've got a bit of an idea. Take a look at what's important to you, what cards work, try to optimize that. Let's talk about, can we talk about like what's possible?
Mm-hmm.
For instance, like obviously I'm a big fan of the 18 summers. So every summer I want to do something, and we're already having that conversation next year. Like my wife and my kids, like this year I took them to sleepaway camp for the first time. So dropped them off for a week. And I'm thinking, and they had a good time, but I said to my wife, I'm like, well, that could be a week that we go do something when we drop them off. Then we get a week away, which we don't very often. But then what else do we do as a family? I guess we probably should start planning that now. Like, give us some context. Like, what is possible? What are some of the types of trips that you see? How much it costs, that kind of thing?
Yeah, I love it, man. I really respect the proactivity and like, especially when it's a dad who's like, this is what I want to, this is the window of opportunity that like I want to create for the family. And I like really want to maximize things. I get very passionate to help that. So I help people in that situation. So I love it. So what's possible? I mean, there's different ways that I can kind of cue this up. There's what's possible in terms of what's like the most aspirational luxury kind of crazy stuff you can get. Then there's what's possible in terms, we can start with that. And then show you what's possible in terms of like amounts of travel and trips. Aspirational luxuries, there are several, actually only a couple airlines that have showers on the plane. Emirates First Class is the one that everyone here, if they're listening to that and they want to put this on their bucket list, should definitely do. It's amazing. And you can actually fly Emirates you don't have to go all the way to Dubai. You can actually fly it from New York to Milan on this specific aircraft. So when you get nerdy about this, there's even different aircrafts with different configurations that only fly certain routes that have some of these kind of special benefits and features. The in-flight bar and showers on the Emirates A380 that only operates from JFK to Milan in terms of the European route. But that's a total bucket list experience. I booked that. So I did a trip where I proposed to my fiance in December, actually in Europe. And we flew that exact flight. And it was two of us. It was 100,000 points a person plus $100 out of pocket. So 200,000 points and $200. The retail price for that was 10 grand a person. So the retail price was $20,000. I paid 200, right? If I went through Amex Travel, it would have been 2 million points. I paid 200,000. Oh, in terms of what's possible, that's a really epic luxury experience that I would highly recommend. As far as other really cool experiences, if you ever fly Lufthansa first class out of Germany, they drive you onto the tarmac in a private Porsche. There's an entire separate terminal for first class passengers where you have your own security, your own lounge, a cigar room, a bubble bath, like $500 bottles of champagne. Is any of this stuff necessary? No, not at all. Is it amazing? It's incredible. It's really cool. So there's things like that exist. There are Singapore suites, I've flown them, where you can have a room, or there's two suites with a bed. And when two people like are flying together, they'll take the wall down and turn it into a double bed in the sky. So we've sent some clients on this one. This is like where the Mile High Club jokes typically come in, right around here. So that's that one. And then, I mean, there's unbelievable like hotels and experiences you can have. Sometimes the upgrades can be out of this world. I don't like to make it a normal expectation because it's really rare this happens. But when we were in New York a couple of winters ago for the holidays, we got upgraded to the presidential suite in the Park Hyatt in Midtown Manhattan. Now, this is an amazing, it's like a 2,400 square foot apartment. It gets a butler. It's an incredible experience. It retails for $30,000 a night. Not points, and dollars a night. So that was crazy because we used 40,000 points for that. So I basically, if you were to equate that, I paid $400 and got a $30,000 per night suite. I haven't seen that happen again for other people, but things like that can happen. Big suite upgrades into like some of the premium rooms at different really luxury properties. Normal, this is not crazy. Go for 2, 3, 4, 5,000 a night. That's like pretty par for the course. If you get your status dialed in, Sweet Night Awards, you use points, like that's not that crazy. So those are some of the more like aspirational things. And there's different ones, different airlines I'm happy to talk about, but like that's some things I would really paint the picture for. Bora Bora, Maldives, African safaris, some of the more aspirational type of trips that people want to do. You can use points for all the different properties or some different properties on all those trips.
Okay, so if I'm looking to go away, I'm gonna do the family of four. How would I just even start? Like, okay, do I decide on the destination? Do I decide on this is the airline we should probably use and the type of points I should accumulate, or
Yeah,
what should my base strategy be? Like,
totally. There's a couple key things to understand first before you start like searching. And this is a huge mistake that a lot of people also make, especially those that know points, because they're used to just like reading the blogs or watching social media accounts. They'll talk about a deal, but they miss the most important piece, which is how you plan and how you search. Okay, so what I mean by that is when are you starting to think about this and what routes are you even looking at? So let's say you guys are in Costa Rica and you want to go to Europe, right? Well, there might, I don't even know if there's probably some direct flights from San Jose to like Madrid and stuff like that, or London, I imagine. So the logical process would be like, okay, well, about 6 months out, I'll start looking for San Jose to London or Madrid, right? That's like how most people think about it if they're booking a cash fare. And with cash fares, it's not necessarily a terrible idea. That's probably the right way to think about it. But with points, they work differently in terms of the pricing, both on available inventory and how the routing works. So the best deals are in two windows. They're like 9 to 11 months out. So very early on, like right when the airlines release the routes, or last minute, like within 3 weeks. Now, the reason for this is because when they're first out, there's a lot of inventory for points and you can book it up and then it's full and it's gone. But if it's getting to like 2, 3 weeks out, maybe a weekend sometimes, and those seats are available, the airline, if they're empty, they don't want to fly with an empty aircraft. So they'll take points instead of cash. So they reopen some of these seats. Now, if you're booking 3 months out, 4 months out, 5 months out, it's not like there's no seats available. There's still plenty. It's just the best deals and the most of them will be in those two windows. So that's the first thing. The second thing is the routing. This is probably even more important because if you want to go to Europe, for example, from Costa Rica, this is called a positioning flight. Most people would just start searching out of San Jose, well, Costa Rica, that's going to have the international flights. When in reality, what you'd want to do with points is start searching out of other major hubs for that route. So you would be looking out of maybe Cancun, definitely Miami, Mexico City, maybe Bogota, stuff like that. That would be the hubs that you'd be searching out of. And then what you would do is you would take a small hop from, or maybe you guys are near Liberia or whatever airport you're in Costa Rica, to Miami, Mexico, wherever it is. And then you do the long haul, let's say business class flight. I'm assuming, I always make the assumption, which maybe I shouldn't, but people want business class for international flights. It sounds like you do, right? You said you got your kids and yeah. It seems like usually a safe assumption. So that's going to be the most important thing, because if you're like just searching from San Jose, you're not going to find the deals. Even if it's the same route from, let's say it's the same flight from Miami to Madrid. If you start in San Jose, it's going to be a very different price than if you just search from Miami to Madrid. So that's why you always want to do that segment from the big international leg, find that first, and then you piece the rest of the itinerary around that. So that's the biggest thing that I could say. And then you could start to look at different deals, transfer partners, which airlines to search and stuff like that. But the hub to hub searching is huge. And like, I'll give one more example on this. I've lived in Austin the last 3 years. I've flown internationally, I don't know, 10 to 15 times, probably more actually. Since then, almost every time except for one, there are international flights from Austin, but I flew to New York, I flew to San Francisco, I flew to Miami, I flew to Atlanta, I flew to Chicago to get on the long haul international flights. So every time I was flying out of another major hub on a separate ticket. So it'd be like Lufthansa from Miami to Frankfurt, and I would fly American the day before to go from Austin to Miami, do a quick overnight, and then catch the international leg. So that is one of the biggest keys that I can give to people that is beyond trying to search on different airline sites or different point searching tools, is the positioning flight and when you're looking. And also like how consistently you track this stuff, because what you see today will be gone tomorrow and then back the next day and then gone the next. So like these things change. So like if you search today, it's not like a cash fare where it's relatively consistent and then slowly goes up over time. They like pop open and close all the time.
okay, so I should still be accumulating the credit card points, because not transferring them to any airlines yet, just start building those up, have a bit of a plan. Here's some options where I'm looking at going. So then when I do find something, or your team finds me something, when it's available, then you go through and convert the points and book it, correct?
Bingo, because I'm glad you brought that up. There's two things to know about the actual booking process. Number one is that once you transfer your points from the bank into the airline, they cannot transfer back. So you don't want to do this speculatively, unless there's like an airline you fly all the time, then it's probably the safe thing to do. But you want to wait until the deal's actually there, and then you want to transfer. So you need a loyalty program with the airline, and then you're basically going to log into your bank account, go to like transfer points, and then sync it, and then hit send, and it goes. Some airlines take a little longer. Usually they're pretty quick, but some, depending on the airline, it'll tell you how long the transfer time can take. But that's the first thing. The second thing is, what's really cool about points is that they're refundable. Meaning, if you decide, okay, we found a great deal for like now would be a really good time to look for trips to Europe for you guys for like next June. Let's just say you were doing that, right? It's about 10 months out from where we're recording this. So if you started to search for that, you might find a great deal and you don't know if it's actually going to work 100%, but you feel 80% confident. You could transfer the points, book it today. And then if 6 months from now, you're like, you know what, that date doesn't work or we need to change it. Cool. You go in, you cancel, you get your points back. Depending on the airline, there's either no fee or pretty minimal fees per person to get those points back. But it's so much better than think about like a cash fare. You'd be sitting there with a $20,000 credit with like Air Austria or Lufthansa or something. And you're like, damn, like, when am I going to use this? So with the points, it's much, much better. So that's a couple of things that are really helpful to know when it comes to booking that allows you to both know when to transfer the points and also when to actually pull the trigger on a trip. And it gives you more ability to kind of be a little more audacious with those bookings and be like, you know what, may not work, but we're going to book it anyways because, this is a commitment towards the trip and it's better to jump on it than wait and then find out that you missed the opportunity.
Right. And you're booking that big leg, which is the best deal, the optimized. And then later on, chances are that little jump from wherever you're going, you're going to be kind of full ticket price on that anyways, because you need to be very specific on the dates, correct? Like I need to go on July 13th, is that date ever going to be on sale? Is it maybe not, like, versus you.
Yeah, and usually that's like the minimal savings. I mean, you're talking about maybe a couple $100 saved for those kinds of flights in most cases. And even then, depending on like your lifestyle flexibility, like we've tried to build our lives to be pretty flexible, where it's like we both run businesses that are online. So if we want to go to New York 3 days ahead and spend a couple days in the city, like that's kind of why I've designed the life I have, is so that we could do that. I totally get when you have kids, that isn't always the case. There's some other schedule conflicts, right? But point being, if you need to get there the day before and lock in a specific date, yeah, you may pay 100, 200, depending on where you're positioning to get there. But maybe it's worth looking for another deal and going a day or two early and then spending a little more time in that city and just getting to see more of the world.
Okay. Talked about airlines. Can we talk a bit about hotels and status and stuff like that? Like, I have the Marriott Bonvoy, card. I make points there. I get some nights. I got platinum. I never seem to get a suite upgrade or, hey, can I get a room upgrade? And they're like, oh, you booked the parking lot view. We'll give you the garden view. And you're like, this is whack. That's not an upgrade.
Dude, totally.
That's one class up. And I'm like, how is this
Yeah,
a class up?
right. Yeah.
Some of that and what you think are, like the good programs, the good hotels. Do you stick with one, brand
Right.
and get your status? What do you think?
Yeah, totally. And it's a good question because the old slip them a 20 at check-in thing, that doesn't really work. So it's kind of like a little, an old myth. And certainly not for airlines. Like that's just laughable to an airline to think that you're just going to ask and get one. Now with hotels, so let's just lay out the game, right? So there's a few major players. Marriott, Hyatt, and Hilton are the three big ones. IHG would be the fourth. Then there's other programs that really don't have like loyalty programs or cards, Four Seasons for like the really luxury travelers, things like that. Like you're not going to really do any of the points game there. You can get some upgrades and things like that through using programs like the Amex Fine Hotels and Resorts, which comes as a perk from the Amex Platinum or Business Platinum. Chase now has something called the Edit Collection. And these basically give you status and travel agent like perks without having any of those things. So that's pretty cool because I've used that alone. And I mean, when we did that engagement trip I just mentioned, we were in Switzerland and we booked a standard room. And based off of having the Amex Fine Hotels and Resorts perk, we got upgraded to a suite with a lake view. That was worth $3,000 a night for 2 nights. So it was a $6,000 value. Again, that's how you make those annual fees totally worth it, making sure to use those perks. So that's like going to cover the luxury hotel side. And that's pretty much only the luxury hotels you're going to get that are not a part of the other big brands. Then when it comes to the big brands, what you generally want to do is find 1 to 2 programs where you are really loyal. If you're traveling enough in hotels, and by enough, I mean 30 to 40 nights per year in a hotel is enough to really be like, okay, it makes sense to really double down on loyalty. That's the opposite actually of the airline side. Really, for 99% of people, for reasons we may not have time to get into right now, I don't recommend airline status for most people. It's kind of a waste. But hotels, contrary, definitely double down on hotel game. My 2 favorite are Hyatt and Marriott. Hilton, they really inflated their point program, so the points are just like insane. Like the Cabo or the Waldorf Astoria, for example, in Cabo is an incredible property, like unbelievable. Some nights it's 100,000 points. Some nights I've seen it over 1 million with Hilton. It's insane. With Hyatt, you'll never see a redemption over like 65,000 points really. And so it's much, much better value. And so that's a big kicker. Now, the best way to get the upgrades, yes, getting status is really big, but also really leveraging these Sweet Night awards that you unlock through either spend milestones or stay milestones, status level milestones. Those are going to unlock a lot of leverage for you, and they work differently for each program. But that can be a huge way to actually make sure you get the Sweet upgrade, at least stack the deck in your favor. And then the last thing I'll say on the upgrades is like how you reach out to them and ask for the room it's a huge play that people just underestimate. A lot of this game, you're kind of seeing the theme. It takes proactivity, right? If you just show up and are like, hey, let's see what room I got for the status, it's very rare they're going to like give you an epic suite. Some places will, but it's very rare. But if you reach out 48 hours before and you look on their hotel site and you see the type of suite, the exact one that you want, and you see that room's available and you message them and you explain, like, think about the person who's receiving this message. They're probably bored at the front desk or whoever it is. And you'd be like, hey, I'm coming to stay here. I'm celebrating this thing, or we recently just did this thing, and I really want to surprise my wife or my family or whatever. And this would be so meaningful and make our stay absolutely amazing if we could have this one specific room. I saw it's available. Maybe throw in some never split the difference negotiating skills from Chris Voss. Be like, probably no chance he could do this for me. That kind of thing. But if you make it very clear, you tell them the reason it's going to be meaningful, give them some emotion, maybe even call, that increases your odds like 500% of getting the actual room you want. So that's almost just as important as the status piece. I like to use those two in combo. If you have no status, that's not really going to work. But if you have like titanium status, for example, like I do with Marriott, and you use that, your ability to get those upgrades is really getting a lot better.
It's funny you said that. I actually did that. I emailed just as you said. I did that probably about 3 or 4 months ago. Got somebody respond front desk. I said, hey, this producer suite's available. I've stayed it before. It's awesome. Bringing the whole kids. Can we do that? And I said it was a birthday party or, a birthday event, exactly as you said. And then somebody responded. It was Kimberly. So then I'm like, hey, Kimberly, like start to blow out a bit, right? And then, like went back and forth and yeah, we ended up doing it. So
Nice.
you do recommend getting the status there, not the status on the airlines, unless it's specific. Now, for instance, like I fly mostly Air Canada when I go through Canada. Canada only has WestJet, Air Canada, and a couple other small little regional plays.
Hmm.
So for me, like I have a credit card in Canada that gives me, it's the reserve card, the Amex Reserve Aeroplan. So it gives me access to the Air Canada lounges and stuff like that. Any other advice, tips that you see people making, problems? What could we change right now?
On the hotel side or just in general?
Any of it, like the hotels, that was a great tip, actually contacting them beforehand, I mean, they're humans, right? And sometimes you just kind of got to try to break through and,
Right.
get a little bit of empathy, right?
Yeah, yeah. So I do have another tip, but it's a little bit different than a tactical level thing. So I'm happy to go more into tactical things. But just to kind of zoom out for a second and check back in on this bucketing to give people clear context. Maximizing your points is the first one, but it's by getting the right cards and right expenses. Then you want to optimize your upgrades and benefits. So that's where you do all the stuff we're just talking about. You get the lounges. It just makes your travel. This is about making your travel more seamless, more comfortable, more luxurious, more easeful. It's not really about using points per se. It's about just making your travel better. And then the third is how you unlock your bucket list trips by leveraging your points for all the things we talked about already with points transfers. So those are the things where you can look at 1 to 10, how am I doing with those? But the last piece I'm going to talk about, which is more of how to look at vacations and travel from a mindset perspective. And this is something that was really interesting when I first realized it, because I started to see, hold on, the more we take trips and vacations, the more profitable our business becomes. And that was so counter to everything I'd ever thought in business and really counter to most advice, especially if you listen to someone like Alex Hormozy or something like that. And the reason for this is vacations and trips and time away become a forcing function for you to have to do a few certain things inside of a business that actually make them more valuable. You have to remove yourself. Like if you're gone for 2 weeks and you actually put your laptop down, you have to delegate things, set up systems, do things to make the business not dependent on you, which is ironic because that is the thing that makes it sell for more or makes it a better lifestyle business in the first place. So by forcing yourself to take more vacations, you have to kind of rip the band-aid off of the things in the business that you probably shouldn't be doing. And a quick example of this, last year I was in Buenos Aires, Argentina, and I was taking 10 days off for the first time in like 2 years. And I was in a really stressed out period of business for this. During this, actually, it was tough. Like I was so burnt out and exhausted and depleted. And I was like, there's no way I can take a vacation. Like team's going to fall apart, even though I'm the travel guy. It was this weird internal conflict. And I remember thinking, okay, there's this new project we're kicking off and it needs to get done. And I'm going to be away for 10 days. And initially I was like, oh, okay, so what I'll do is I'll create a draft and we'll set up a meeting. And then next week we'll talk about it and we'll review it and then we're going to do this. I was like, should we be gone for 10 days? I can't do any of that. So it forced me, because I was forced to think like this. I was like, okay, so I'm going to take this here. I'm going to record a Loom video. I'm going to delegate it to this person. I'm going to tell them to talk to them, and then they're going to review that. And then they're going to send me a final thing by this day. But here's the North Star. I'm going to trust the team and go. It ended up, the project went across perfectly fine. I spent like 10 minutes instead of 3 hours, and it got done in like a week instead of like 2 weeks. And that was like a light bulb moment for me, because I was like, I wouldn't have thought of that situation had I not forced myself to take the time off. So that is like your permission slip as a business owner to do more of the things you already want to do, but you're probably afraid, you probably have anxiety or nervous around actually taking the time away. Not just taking the trip, but actually unplugging and being with your family. And this is probably the highest leverage thing I can share with people, because if you don't have this right, it doesn't matter how many points you have. It doesn't matter how good of a deal you find. If you're not going to actually take the trip, then like you could just stack points all day or use them and go somewhere, but not actually be present there. That's a little bit of like the kind of the psychology piece of this, that when you understand it, it's really cool. And the last thing I'll share with that is, when you really get this right, the more you grow your business, the more points you earn, because your spend goes up. The more points you earn, the more vacations you take. The more vacations you take, the more you love like what your business is providing for you, and the more you want to grow it. So it actually becomes a very self-sustaining flywheel, where it's like, wow, I get to grow this business and take more trips, and then in turn, I want to grow the business. So it's a really good kind of feedback loop.
You're totally right, because no one wants to sit down and write SOPs and document your process and record Loom videos and type it out until they need to. And you're like, okay, now I'm going away for 2 weeks and I can't. And I'm literally going to be on a plane when I'm supposed to do this. So I need someone else to do it. And I got to write it out now. No one's going to sit down. No one wakes up on Tuesday and you're like, man, I'm going to bang out some SOPs. No, never. Right.
Not for most of us. No, you have to be forced into it, which sounds very counterintuitive, but that's the way that, I mean, it's the Parkinson's law, the concept, which is like things will expand to, the maximum amount that we take. So if something's going to take 2 weeks, it's 2 weeks. If we have 2 days, it's 2 days. And especially with delegating processes like that, if there's not a forced reason why you have to get it off your plate, then you probably won't. And you're probably doing a lot more things than you need to. And this is like a lesson that I still have to, always keep learning myself in the business too. It's like we all do, but it's a good reason to, again, give you the permission slip to take the trips.
Okay. I want to talk a bit about kind of your business and what your approach, what you can help people with, the programs you offer. Because I know some people that have signed up with you and now they're emailing you, doing all the trip planning and, point hacking. Just walk us through a bit of that, please.
Yeah. So, I mean, everything I just explained, anyone can do on their own. It's just, how easy do you want this to be? How little mistakes, and how much complexity do you want to deal with on your own? So we're like the easy mode for this. Okay. So basically, people come to us. Essentially, we're like a travel agency on credit card points for business owners. So we help optimize the spend. We basically review the exact expenses inside the household and the business. We audit your travel, your goals, the things that matter to you. And then we put together a custom plan that just revamps the cards you have. And this is the key here, is two things. Number one, that there's only a positive impact on your credit. And number two, that it's simple and easy to do. We don't have 25 credit cards flying around. It's too complex for 99% of people. There are some people that have tons of cards because they love it. But for our starting clients, like the people that are just getting into this, 3 to 6 cards between household and business is a great amount. That's 1 to 2 bonus category cards in each, and then 1 to 2 just like everyday cards on each. And that's enough to really get you juice, where you're getting the upside, but it's not a lot of complexity, and you're not leaving money on the table. That's a key piece. And then what we'll do, and some people come to us when they have a trip first, so the card plan comes after. But the second thing we do is we then create bucket list trip opportunities. So people come to us and say, hey, I've always wanted to go to Japan and Thailand, Paris and Greece, African safari. This is my bucket list. And then what our team will do is we'll take the points you already have and the points you're going to continue to earn, and show different options and create experience opportunities for you to take first class luxury vacations, where you basically just say yes and then show up at the airport, right? You have to do a little bit of the booking stuff too, but we find the deals, we track everything, we make it super seamless. And these are typically trips that are 30, 40, 50, sometimes $70,000. And the client ends up paying $2, $3, $4, $5,000 out of pocket for all the travel. So they save that money. That's money that gets to go back into the business, back into investments or whatever. And you get to have a vacation, and you don't have to do the planning. So that's essentially what we are, kind of like a points concierge meets travel agent. And then we also help with like the smaller trips. So you're in Costa Rica, you want to go back to, are you from Toronto or which side of Canada?
I moved from Toronto, but
Okay.
my parents live on the East Coast. So we usually
Okay.
go back to Toronto, visit some family. I head out east during school break, and then the summer,
Okay.
well, who knows?
Okay. So you want to go back from Costa Rica to Toronto, like that's one where you can just message us as well. And we help plan those, even the small ones, to make it easier. But the big, like The juicy value is going to be the big international trip or trips, and then the card optimization as well. There's other things we do. We integrate with travel agencies. So like if there's certain experiences like you want to go to, and we have different trips that we partner with. You want to go to Antarctica or you want to go to certain properties on an African safari. We have ways to make all those things happen. Really bucket list VIP experiences, people that really want to do the like top shelf luxury things, go sit in a box at like Formula One races, stuff like that. We have partnerships that integrate with those kinds of things. But the core of the offer is really taking the points and turning them into your wildest dreams and having enough left over where you want to squeeze in an extra trip or two, to the Caribbean islands this year because you took the big trip and you have so many points left over. Cool. Take the wife on a little getaway and have some fun and enjoy that. That's what the business is about.
Are you also like kind of proactively letting me know? Because sometimes I don't know what I don't know and I don't know what I want to do. And then all of a sudden I see it. I'm like, I want to do that. And for those amount of
Yeah,
points and that type of deal, I'll take that. Like, do you do that as
totally.
well? Okay.
Yes. Yeah, we do. So in two levels, we have like a community aspect to what we do where we are just dropping in deals. We call it our dream trip menu. So we'll drop entire trips. So it's not just like, here's a flight. Like we do that as well if there's a really cool experience available. But we also package an entire thing. So be like, hey, for anyone, because when people onboard, they fill out where they want to go, when, and what they have points wise. And so we know based in our community, like the segments of the group that have, 500,000 Amex points and would want to go to Paris or something like that next summer. So we might find, an entire package trip, round trip business class flights and hotels. Like here's a 10-day experience, full itinerary, $50,000 handed to you. And all you have to do is go through and follow the steps and book it. So we offer those. And then we'll also proactively look for trips that people are coming in that are in like our higher level, kind of more concierge services. We'll proactively monitor trips and deals that they specifically want as well. Flexibility is the key on those dates. So like one of the things that whether someone's working with us or doing this on their own, I mentioned flexibility of the routing, but also having a couple days on like those international legs will open up so many opportunities to get better value. So if someone's like, I have to fly direct from Miami to Madrid on June 13th, I mean, you could still find it, but it's like way less options. And if you're like, hey, I'm cool doing 11, 12, 13, or 14, then all of a sudden the odds of finding a great deal go up exponentially. So when we have that, it just allows us to provide even more value and more options for people too.
Sure. Can you give me an example of something you guys have found recently you just posted in your group that was like, hey, this is a sick deal if anybody's into it?
Sure. Yeah. So, I mean, one of them was Cathay Pacific first class, where there was 2 seats available. So this is a good couples trip to Asia. A lot of times when we're going to Europe, we're looking for 4 or 5 seats because people a lot of times have families. For the premier, like true first class experiences, oftentimes the max you're going to see available on these kinds of things is 2. Sometimes you see a little bit more, but that was a really big one. And we had a couple clients over on the West Coast that had all been saying they wanted to go to Japan and just do like a couples trip because we have some clients that don't have families. That was a killer one. It was like a $15,000 piece deal. I think it was around 85,000 points per person. So it was a killer of savings, but it's one that like when Cathay opens up award space, you better jump on that thing quick because it's really hot and will go very quickly. But it's like one of the most luxurious, unbelievable experiences from the food in flight to like a Michelin star menu, multiple courses. You have basically like a one-on-one private flight attendant that's there to just refill your champagne glass the whole flight. So it's a really epic experience. That's an example of one. Tons of them to Europe. I mean, all over. London's like super easy, but like London, Paris, we've seen a lot of Q Suites, which is Qatar Airlines, to Doha, which is a great one to connect to for people that want to do the Maldives or even go down to Africa and do a safari trip. So there's been a few of the big ones as of late. There were a couple other big hotel properties, some really awesome Overwater villas in Bora Bora that recently had some great award availability as well. So that was another one we posted about too.
Okay. So if I want to use a service like you and do it, what is the minimum that I kind of need to be spending, to make it make sense? Because obviously you guys charge a fee and I have to have points to maximize this. So what's kind of
Yep.
what's that look like?
Around 15K a month between personal and business is like a good baseline. If you're spending that, there's some serious meat on the bone. That would be good for us, for our community level, where you get access to our team, shortcut the process, screen shares, deal alerts, and direct Q&A. It's not really the done for you concierge service. It's more guidance, but that's really all you need at that level in terms of getting really good value out of the investment. For people spending over 30, 40, 50,000 a month, then the concierge options make a lot of sense because it's just going to be, a small mistake in terms of the wrong card could be a $20,000 a year missed opportunity. So that's the easiest money that you're going to get. So those people, the concierge service where we really just do things for you would be a better fit. And that ranges for us. We have packages as low as 3K all the way up to 25,000. So it really just depends on how much they're spending, how much they're traveling, and what they need to determine where they'd fit on that spectrum.
Sure. So to join the community, what's the base cost to just hang out with you guys a bit?
Yeah, so it's normally $200 a month, and we have a 50% off. So anyone coming from your community that's listening to this, we can drop a code. I'll get that to you. It'll be in the show notes down below. But that'll be a way to join at 50% off where it's only 100 a month. And that's just a little bonus for being a listener on the show too.
Sweet, man. No, that's awesome. That's the kind of thing I just need to understand. And most people will ask, like, okay, how much do I need to be spending to, make it worth my while? And then
Yeah,
obviously, yeah, the more you spend, the more points I got, the flywheel starts to go, and
exactly.
and then we can jump up. All right, before
Exactly.
this has been super awesome. Any final tips, tricks before we cut you off and I let you go on your next call because you're in Paris and you've got
Thank you. Thank you. No, I mean, I think that we covered a lot of the really good stuff. I'll give you one tactical thing to leave people with, and then one kind of philosophical thing. So the tactical thing, I'm actually giving you two. Okay. So one is getting some apps that will help make this easy. So one of the great apps out there is a Ward Wallet. Another alternative would be TripIt Pro. And these are apps that will sync all of your points into one place. This keeps it simple. Simple is good, makes it easy. Basically, you can just log into one place and see all your points in one spot. I really like that. If you're searching for flights on your own and you want to expedite the process, there are some tools out there. Actually, there's a lot of tools, but it's kind of like certain tools are good for certain situations, and none of them are good for all of them. And sometimes they suck, and sometimes they're great. But I'll tell you a few of them. Point.me is the main one. It's just hit or miss. It doesn't do any tracking or alerts or anything like that, but it can be good for like super simple searches. Seats.arrow is a great tool as well. You really need to know how to use it to maximize it, but if you get this down, it can be very powerful for you. Then there's Roam Travel and Expert Flyer. So those are going to be like four of the big like point searching tools. Expert Flyer is better to see inventory and what's available. Roam is kind of similar more to like point.me where you'll see different just like routes and pricing and stuff. But not all these sites pull in from all the airlines. Sometimes they miss things. Sometimes there's things called phantom award space. So for like our team, when we do it, we use a hybrid of those plus daily tracking, monitoring like actual sites to find legitimate availability. It's just more true, like inaccurate information. And sometimes that's updated before the other sites and things like that. So those are a couple of the tools there. Last thing I'll share is that if you are someone that's in the US and you're doing a lot of domestic travel, you should consider checking out the Southwest Companion Pass. If you have one person that's traveling with you and you just want frequent like volume of travel, all it takes is 125,000 Southwest points in a single year, which you can get through getting a bonus on one of their personal cards and one of their business cards. If you get both these cards, you're going to hit 125K in points, which means for the rest of that calendar year that you get it, and the entire next year, you get two people flying for the price of one. And then so what happens is hopefully that relationship's still lasting. And after the 2 years, you flip it. So like if you got it for your wife, let's say you did it in January 2026, you now have 2026 and 2027 where she's your companion. End of 2027 comes around, she adds you, and then you do 28 and 29 as the companion. That's 4 years of one person flying free. If you have kids, you and your wife could each do it and add a kid. So that could be four of you guys flying for the price of two. So only on Southwest, but they have a lot more routes to the Caribbean now, to Central America, to Hawaii. So definitely recommend checking that out. So those are some last tactical things. And the last kind of big idea is just what I call becoming an experiential millionaire. And so this is someone who prioritizes wealth of experiences in their life, not just wealth in their bank account. And I think especially people that are doing the line of work that you guys are in, selling online, like that's a big reason is to be able to have these meaningful memories and experiences. And so the recommended dosage that I always have is one trip per quarter. That's at least a few days with someone you care about, whether it's your parents, whether it's your kids, your wife, your friends. One trip that's a quarterly getaway, unplug from the business, remove yourself, see how things go. And then one trip that's like a 2 to 4 week big bucket lister. So if you do that for 10 years, on average, that could save you, if you do this well with points, 100 grand a year. If you really maximize it and you spend enough, that could be 100 grand a year in savings. We have tons of clients that are doing that. And that over a decade is $1 million saved. Okay. It's also 48 mini vacations and getaways and 10 full on bucket list life experiences. So if you look back over a decade and you're like, I saved $1 million on travel. I had 48 epic trips and 10 like holy shit bucket list moments. That's a good life. So that's my last thing I'll leave people with is like a big kind of idea or identity to think about is becoming an experiential millionaire.
Absolutely. Memory dividends of those trips and the experiences. And, like even we went on a cruise last summer, we still talk about it and we joke and we played hide and go seek on the cruise ship with me and my kids, and we still keep talking about that. Like the dividends you get from those experiences are top notch.
Totally.
All right.
100%.
Eli, thank you so much for your time today, man. This is jam packed. Appreciate it. We're going to put everything you talked about in the show notes. I got to go back through and find all the links, but everything will be down there. Super valuable. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you for having me on. And for anyone listening, the links in the show notes, there will be a free playbook. It's normally $150. People listening to this will get it for free. So it'll be right on there. It's called the CO Points Playbook. It's everything that I've basically just covered in more depth, more actionable. It's 40 pages written by me, not a GPT. And so this is like real tactical stuff that you can implement. I guess you could feed a GPT if you want help with it from that. But that's a great thing I would grab to just get a little more acclimated with the things we covered today. But, Rob, thanks for having me on, man. And looking forward to seeing people take some killer trips.
Absolutely, man. Thanks so much.
Thank you.